everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And today it's going to be very fun. We are talking about the world of animation for 2023. And I can't think of a better guest to have with me to talk about animation than to have Mat Brunet here. And thank you so much, Mat, for coming on and talking about animation with me.
Hey, it's great to be here. Honestly, when you asked me to come on over to do this, like I got excited. Like, yes, I want to do another round of this. And I mean, doing these like podcasts with you, or like these little chats, like honestly, it's just a lot of fun.
It is. It is. It's something I really look forward to. And especially, I'm very curious to talk with you about this year because I feel like for this year, to me at least, I feel like it's been a very like experimental year for animation. It's been a very interesting year. And there hasn't been that much that I've like hated. Like I'm even if I didn't like love it, I still thought, oh, that was interesting. Like they were trying something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, I feel the same way. I feel like this was a very strong year for animated features. Like, there were very few that I didn't like. And the grand majority of them, I actually walked out and I feel appreciative of that. It was like, oh, that was actually pretty nice. And
Yeah.
when they're great, they are amazing.
Yeah.
Like, there are several that I do find that they came out as extremely strong, and some that I would even say are some of the best of the decade.
Yeah. 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 There's some real strong entries. Well, let's dive in. We got a ton to talk about. And yeah, I kind of have these sort of in my order, but then there's a couple that you've seen that I haven't seen. There'll be a few that I've seen that you haven't seen, and all of that. So let's dive in. Well, for me at least, the one that I did kind of hate, I really didn't like it, was Trolls Band Together. I've never been a big fan of the Trolls franchise. And I thought that Poppy was so insufferable in this movie. She was so annoying. I just wanted to be like, go away. And the whole bait and switch with NSYNC was really annoying. I mean, that they would make you, they have like a boy band in the movie and they're not in sync. And then like the last 30 seconds of the movie, they're like, surprise, here they are. And it was just like, oh, come on. And what I think is so annoying about these Trolls movies is that all of them pretend to be about acceptance and love and fun, but like they're not. In these movies, if you do not behave like Poppy, if you don't love to dance and you don't love to do all the things that she loves to do, then you are a bad person and you need to change. And for some reason in the second movie, like rock and roll music is evil. I don't even understand. And then this one, I hated everything about it. I guess some of the animation's fine, but I just really didn't like it. And so yeah, that was my feelings on it. How did you feel about it?
Honestly, I am on the same page as you. I actually do think it is the worst animated film of the year. And I would say, like, even those that I didn't really like that much, I thought they're just mediocre at worst. Like, they're just mid, they're meh, they're stuff like that. But Trolls Band Together is the one that I came out like really not happy. Like I was upset of how bad it was. It is easily among one of the most soulless and corporately manufactured animated features made.
Yeah,
like
which is really so disappointing because I mean, because DreamWorks had such an amazing 2022. I mean, I absolutely loved Last Wish. I thought Bad Guys was really solid. So for them to put out something like this was very disappointing.
Yes, I feel the same way. I feel like honestly, the studio that got the biggest downgrade from 2022 to 2023 is easily DreamWorks Animation. It's shocking how you look at like how did you go from like the Bad Guys to The Last Wish and then suddenly making something like Trolls Band Together. And this might sound harsh, but honestly, I feel like it's almost comparable to the Emoji Movie, with the way that literally every creative decision is made purely for the purpose of profit. Like, there is nothing in there that I find that is actually creatively clever in the way that, like, it has a good artistic approach. Like, it's all made for the money, it's all made for the profit. And yeah, I do agree, like, the animation is the best part of it, and it is well done. Like, it's very colorful, the choreography is definitely great. Like, okay, that part I do find to be solid. But then again, I feel that, like, that's also something that is a bit of an issue, because the best things about Band Together, it's the exact same things that you would get in the previous Trolls movies. And those ones, like, I don't really care about them that much, but even those ones, there was a bit of an attempt to make a decent script compared to this.
Yeah. I mean, and don't you agree that even the messaging is like off? Like, when you really think about it, that it's like everybody needs to change. If you're not if you're not a particular way, if you're not bubbly, if you're not like Poppy, then that's it. And even like the whole thing with the lost sister, that was like that you'd think from the trailer that was like a huge part of the movie. It's really not.
No, it's not.
No.
I find it to be the biggest missed opportunity of the year. Like, I know, like, okay, well, we'll probably talk about this later. Like, I know a lot of people have been ranting about, like, oh, Wish could have been something like this. No, this is much worse, because there was actually good. Yeah, there was a good movie there. I find, like, there was a great opportunity to expand upon, like, the lore of the franchise, and there was a very interesting dynamic between Poppy and Viva. But unfortunately, they set that thing to the side. Like, they treat it like it's an afterthought, and it had no reason why it needed to be here, and it had zero connection with the whole plot line with Branch and how, like, oh, we got to get the band back together. And like you said, even the messaging is just so off. But then again, that's like an issue with the whole franchise, because there is a problem with toxic positivity. I remember many years ago, a friend of mine named Joey, whom some of you may know as Joey Tedesco, he actually made a pretty solid video discussing about the problems with the message of Trolls, or at least the first Trolls, that it promotes toxic positivity.
Like, Branch has to change. He is wrong. And there's no reason, aside from being a little surly, there's no reason why he has to be like Poppy.
Yeah, and not to mention that he has to change again, because like, now it feels like a bit of a repeated process. You think they've already done it before, but no, Branch is still grumpy, he's still upset, and now, like, no, he has to change again. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much the only one that I like of these movies that I like outright hated. Everything else going forward, I had like mixed feelings about. Well, so next for me was it's a art movie that a lot of people probably haven't seen yet. I don't even know if it's gotten a release, but watched it as an Oscar contender. It's called The Peasants, and this movie is done by the same team that did Loving Vincent, which I actually wasn't a big fan of. I didn't love Loving Vincent. It was beautiful, but the story I didn't love. This one I liked less than Loving Vincent.
Oh dear.
It is very beautiful, but this thing is bleak. This is definitely an animated film for adults, and it has multiple cases of near rape or rape. It's supposed to be this like intense love story. I guess it's based on this book. I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't for me. I mean, the animation is impressive because it's all done on paintings and it's got that Loving Vincent look, but not for me.
Yeah, I will admit, I haven't seen it, but it does sound like it is in line with Loving Vincent, because I feel the same way, where I feel like Loving Vincent does have some of the most revolutionary and most innovative animation, debatably even more so than Spider-Verse, but that script is just so whack. It feels like something that's just so all over the place, and everybody feels unpleasant. So hearing that The Peasants might be a bit of the same thing with unpleasant people, but like gorgeous revolutionary animation, it's like, I don't know. I just feel hesitant.
Yeah, it's just it's very unpleasant. movie, and I'm fine with dramas and I'm fine with adult dramas in animation, but I don't know, like you need a little more humanity in your if you're gonna, even if it's gonna be very tragic, I feel like I need more humanity. So that one was missed for me. And then next, I actually have the Super Mario Brothers. And this isn't a terrible film, but I was underwhelmed by it. I felt like it was such an opportunity for Illumination to do something special and to really push themselves in the animation. And ironically, they would do it, in my opinion, at least later on in the year. But this one, I just felt like it was, I hated the story. They're like forcing Princess Peach to marry him. And what? I didn't like that. And there were some fun moments. I'm not a gamer. It's not, so like a lot of the nostalgia elements like did nothing for me. And I don't know, it just felt like a big missed opportunity to me.
Interesting. Honestly, for me, I do agree. It's not like the best movie of the year, and there are some flaws. Like the story is not necessarily that great, and I still do find that Mario was definitely miscast as Chris Pratt. I still like. I'm still on the side that he shouldn't have played Mario. They shouldn't. They should have gotten someone else like who can at least do some kind of different voice other than like the typical Chris Pratt thing.
Well, like Luigi is gone for most of the movie, too.
Yeah, well, yeah, like he's the one who's taking the role of like being kidnapped and stuff like that. And I mean, it shouldn't be that surprising in the first place, considering that it is Illumination Entertainment. That's what they do. They're a lot more crowd pleasers than they actually are like trying to make high quality animated features and stuff.
Yeah, like I always say they're the McDonald's of animation.
Yeah, but I will say though, as someone who is like a gamer and a lifelong Nintendo fan and has played Mario games all my life, I will say I did have a lot of fun with this one. Like there's like so many Easter eggs that you could find. The animation is brilliant. I would even say some of the best from Illumination Entertainment. It does have a very good pace. Like, and there is a lot of it where it does actually feel like the Mario games, but now brought to life in a feature film. And not to mention that one thing that actually did help out for me, at least, is that it doesn't take itself seriously. Like there is a part of it that is self-aware of the kind of movie that it is, and it just really wants to go and have fun. And like one great example, of course, is with Bowser, where like he's not supposed to be like taken seriously and is all threatening, like especially like his plot. Like, yeah, I mean that's something from the games where like Bowser is in love with Peach, and even as recent as Mario Odyssey, there was a plot line where Bowser wants to try to marry Peach. And but in this one, Jack Black plays a great performance as Bowser. And I mean, not to mention having a lot of really funny moments, especially with his love for Peach. And of course, we cannot forget about that unforgettable song, Peaches, which became a massive viral sensation.
Yeah, so, after I wrote my review, I talked to so many people that really had an affinity for it, and so it did make me, I didn't change my opinion, but it did make me kind of feel like, okay, well, they did it. They did what they knew the job. And so that made me feel a little bit more warmed up to it. Well, next, there's a little movie called The Inventor, which I wanted to like more than I did. I think the animation is really fun, and it has an overall sort of UPA feel. It feels like something from the like late 70s, early 80s kind of a feel to the animation. It feels very like instructional. It's about Da Vinci, and so I liked that of it. But and the voice acting solid. It's got Stephen Fry and Daisy Ridley, Marion Cotillard. But I just felt like that the actual story, it felt more like the kind of thing you'd see like an educational film strip that you'd see at school explaining Da Vinci and everything, and what was going on, than like an actual compelling story. It just didn't quite do it for me with the story, but I did appreciate the animation and the kind of the style.
That is disappointing. I have yet to actually watch The Inventor, but I know I really want to, especially when the Inventor actually was crowdfunded, and I actually did put some money on it where
Okay.
I'm actually found in the credits of like, thank you for all the backers and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
So like that plays a factor into why I really want to go and check it out, because I did supported the movie. But I don't know, like I have heard a lot of positive things about it, but I don't know. I can't really say for myself how it is. I guess we will have to wait and see with how this will go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like a train wreck or anything. But it's just
Yeah, it's just,
they didn't quite nail the story for me.
it just is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
And I actually have one that I also helped crowdfund that we'll talk about later on. Okay, so then I have the new Diary of Wimpy Kid Christmas next. I think this one's actually the best of these animated specials. And it kind of fits Christmas, I think, well. But I really hate this animation. I think it looks awful. And I know they're trying to mimic from the book, but I wish they were just doing 2D like they do in the they had in the live action movies. I just hate it. I think it looks awful. So
Yeah. I mean, it's ironic considering that this year Disney has put out so many movies that have a budget of like 200 or 300 million, and yet they couldn't even like give that, like they couldn't even give a fraction to these Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. And I understand, like the animation here is honestly not good, and they are relatively weak, and I cannot necessarily blame the direction or many of the creative choices, mainly because it shows that they didn't really have that much to work with in the first place, and as a result, like it doesn't look good. It doesn't look that appealing, and even the art style, like okay, I get like maybe you want to go in a similar direction to what they did with Captain Underpants, the first movie, but still it's just like you don't really do much with it. So I get it. Yeah, I do agree the animation is easily the weakest part. But I will also say, considering that I have seen the other animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, I do agree that this is the best one. I mean, technically, yes, as it is, it's just a typical Christmas special that's not really that memorable. And I'm not planning to go and like turn this into a Christmas tradition, but it's mainly when you do compare it to like the 2021 movie or Roderick Rules.
Yeah.
When compared to
it's
those,
definitely
like,
better.
It is like a shocking improvement where the characters are a bit more likable. They're a lot more playful with their personalities. It has more heart to it. And even the narrative actually does feel like it's more planned out. Like things are a lot more connected to one another than how it is before. So it is a slight improvement, but I don't know if it does give me enough confidence that Disney is going to continue that, considering that it is a Christmas special technically. So I don't know if it's really just a Christmas miracle, but I don't know. There is a part of me that is a little bit worried because now it is official. It looks like Disney is going to be turning this into an annual thing where every December, Greg Heffley has to come in and invade Disney Plus.
Well, I just wish that I just the style. I just don't like the character designs, and again, I know it's based on the book, but I don't know.
No,
but
you're right. No, I do agree with you. Like it looks like I mean I know it's a bad term to use. Like it does look cheap.
Yeah. Well, you saw the Monkey King on Netflix. I missed that one. What'd you think?
Oh boy, well, you really didn't miss much. I would honestly, I really didn't like it because the thing is with this one is that this is it's basically a Western version of the story Journey to the West with Sun Wukong. And with this one, I just feel like it's just a very cynical, typical Hollywood style version of the story that it's just really unpleasant, where they try too hard to make it like this this sarcastic comedy with the type of jokes that you would find in modern animated films, and even the character of the Monkey King himself. I do get it because in the original story, Sun Wukong is an egomaniac, but in here they present him like a full-on ripoff of Maui from Moana. And one thing that and I would say that debatably it would have been worse than Trolls Band Together, but the saving grace of it is the animation. That I actually do find to be very solid, and it actually makes the action scenes a lot of fun. And there was even one moment where they got a pretty epic 2D scene where we see like many of the great highlights of the Monkey King becoming this great deity. So from there, what I find to be the worst thing about the Monkey King is that the fact that it is an adaptation of Journey to the West, it's just so unnecessary. I just feel like, why should I go and watch this movie when there are literally dozens, and I do mean dozens, of other adaptations who tell the exact same story and do a much better job than this. In fact, there's actually a Chinese animated movie.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, there's a Chinese animated movie from the 1960s that you could actually find on YouTube for free that you could go and check it out. It is way better. It is far more enjoyable, and it actually sticks closer to the original story than with the Monkey King, where they westernized the crap out of it.
Yeah. That's too bad. Well, next up is the one that I crowdfunded. And I would never do that now because it just looks weird to have a critic, investing in movies. And I didn't review it because I just felt like it was a conflict of interest to review something that I'd crowdfunded. But it was way back in 2016. I interviewed Signe Baume about my love affair with marriage. She was doing the Kickstarter, and so then it finally came out. So she's been working on it for all that time, 7 years. And she makes really interesting, raw, honest movies. And this one is about marriage and divorce and everything. She uses a lot of different mediums. She'll use some stop motion. She'll use hand drawn. She does it all herself. But this is not as good as Rocks in My Pockets. But it's interesting. It's an adult, it takes on adult themes, obviously, of marriage and infidelity and things like that. So if you're looking for something that's different, then it might be worth a shot. But yeah.
Okay.
So
I haven't heard about this movie. I haven't seen this movie, so I really cannot have a comment on that.
Well, so one of my big, I guess, unpopular opinions this year is that I didn't love Nimona. I know a lot of people really loved it, and I'm so happy they got to make it. I'm really happy that that it connected with so many people. I think part of it is I just don't love like fantasy, like knights and those kinds of stories, high fantasy. I don't love those stories, and so it's a very tough sell for me, that kind of story. And I just found it kind of dull. I just didn't like the story. She's like, I guess, fun. I like her character, and I like the representation. I think that's great. I don't know. I just didn't love it. I thought it was. I tried watching it twice, and I still didn't love it even the second time.
Ah, man, that is unfortunate. Sadly, this is going to be the part where we have to go and split. I'm not leaving, but what I'm saying is that I love this movie. I consider this to be one of my favorite movies of the year and one of the best animated movies of 2023. For me, I feel like yes, it is a miracle in itself. The fact that it did get made, the fact like it was very inspiring to see how like it nearly turned into lost media after Blue Sky Studios unfortunately shut down, but then suddenly it got picked up by Annapurna Pictures and then suddenly became this. And for me, I was a lot more invested on the things that you were not interested. Like I did really like this futuristic fantasy movie that they really built up. I find the characters to be so much fun, especially Nimona with her chaotic energy. The voice acting is absolutely fantastic, and they really do make the characters great. And especially the representation, of course. I think it's some of the best LGBTQ plus representation that you can find in an animated feature so far, especially with Nimona being this trans or non-binary metaphor with how she's like this shapeshifter. And of course, not to mention that it is actually brave enough to actually show a same-sex kiss, like right in front of the camera, just no trouble whatsoever. And even like the romance between I forgot some of the I forgot the characters' names, but between the two main guys, like the romance in there, it actually feels very genuine, and there is kind of like this bittersweet thing how like they have to fight, they need to be enemies, but there is still that love for one another. Like I felt like that worked out so beautifully, and not to mention like with the action and especially with the animation, the stylized look that they went for is just absolutely gorgeous. It's basically elevating what Disney did with some of the shorts that they've done, like with Paperman and Feast. And I mean, it does make sense considering that Patrick Osborne was the original director of Nimona. So overall, for me, I would have to, like, this is the first one I'll have to disagree with you on. I think this is actually an amazing movie and easily one of the best animated films you could find on Netflix, right next to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Yeah, and I know I'm in the like vast minority, which is cool. It happens every year, that happens. So all right. Next next I have Wish, which makes me very sad because I mean, when I was putting this list together, I forgot to put Wish on the.
I had to remind you of that.
Like, that's how forgettable this movie is. It was like I've seen it twice, and I walked away the second time thinking I never need to watch this movie ever again. I mean, I would always pick to watch the things it's referencing over this. And I just found everything about it to be completely bland, completely generic, completely uninteresting. I don't know. Is it worse to be like outright bad or just completely bland? I don't know, but it's one I've really struggled in my ranking because again, like it's not like outright bad like a Chicken Little or something like that, but like that movie at least like it tried things. It was more experimental. This was just like nothing. I don't know. What a disappointment. From Disney. And what a horrible year they had this year. It was bad.
Yeah, nah, it's very unfortunate. What was supposed to be their 100th year anniversary turned out to be quite a dud. The only positive that you could get from this is that, well, at least it's better than Warner Brothers 100th anniversary. Oh boy, they've had, I mean, let's be honest, they've had it so much worse.
Well, at least they had Barbie though.
They had Barbie, and that's it. They still had, but then again, they also had like the DC movies. They had Coyote versus Acme controversy. They had David Zaslav. They had way too many things. At least, but anyways, going back into Wish, I guess this will be my hot take of the year. For me personally, I actually did like Wish, and I know some people might say like, oh, I'm just a Disney fan. Like, of course I would like it and stuff like that. But I will say this. I do agree it is not the strongest animated movie that Disney put out in recent years. That I can agree. And I do agree with a lot of the criticisms that there is. The story is kind of weak. That I will say is pretty true. It could have been better handled. And also, like, I am aware about some of the concepts that happened back then, that they were originally thinking for some of the ideas. And yes, those would have actually been better for this feature. But for me, that doesn't take away some of the elements that actually did work and that it actually did feel enjoyable. Like, there is a part of it where I could tell that it is a bit of a labor of love, that the people at Disney, they wanted to go and create something that would honor the 100th anniversary of Disney. And like, honestly, it's kind of, and for me, I feel like it is kind of the Disney equivalent of the Super Mario Brothers movie, where like a part of the fun is to see like all the different references being presented in this one feature. And I will admit, as a Disney fan, I actually do find those things to be pretty fun, and they do add a little bit of a charm. And even like the other things, I do find to be pretty fun as well. Like the characters are enjoyable. I was surprised that both Star and Valentino are actually pretty funny. I thought they would probably be annoying, but like,
really,
no, actually,
Valentino, you like?
I don't mind Valentino, actually. I don't find him to be the worst character. But also, the animation, I gotta say, like, there are a few things that are not perfect about it, but there are some things that are freaking gorgeous. Especially like the backgrounds that look like watercolors. Like that, I find to be a very nice touch. And even some of the musical numbers, I actually did enjoy. Maybe not all of them. I'm not too big of a fan of songs like "I'm a Star" or
that was a weird one.
Or even "This Is the Thanks I Get," but there are some that I did enjoy, like "This Wish." I think is like one of the best movie songs of the year. I did enjoy "At All Costs," and I did like "Knowing What We Know Now," which I will say I am actually quite surprised to see that amongst fans of Wish, that seems to actually be the favorite. It's technically the "We Don't Talk About Bruno" of Wish. But overall, I will say that even though it's not the best Disney movie out there, I like, honestly, if you look past like, oh, what it could have been or how it is compared to like some of the other movies this year, there is something enjoyable that can be found in Wish. It is still like, I find it to be a pretty solid movie on its own. And honestly, I find the hate against it is way too exaggerated. I mean, yeah, sure, like, I know like people will have their own opinions and that's perfectly fine, but just the level of hate, like trying to make massive hate campaigns and making videos like slamming it and putting up like weird baseless claims about like, oh, AI wrote the script of this. It's like, okay, that's a bit much.
It didn't inspire me on either way. I just felt like it did nothing for me. It was just really bland, in my opinion. But yeah, I people, of course, it's the internet. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, so you saw Ladybug, Cat Noir, the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. What about this?
Okay, now this is one that I actually do find to be pretty stale. Now, I'm just going to say this right now. Admittedly, I have not seen anything from Ladybug and Cat Noir prior. I know that it is like a major animated franchise. It has a huge fan base. But for me,
it's a video game, right? Isn't it a video game?
No, it's an animated series.
Oh, okay.
It started out as an animated series, and then it just became this whole thing in itself.
I've never watched any of it, obviously.
And with this one, like, I came in as a newcomer, and I will say it didn't really convince me to become a fan or like to be more invested in this. I will say, like, there is a little bit of an effort to like introduce some of the concepts just a little bit, and I will say the animation here is fantastic. Like, I think it is awesome. Like, the action scenes are actually a lot of fun. There are some creative elements to it that actually does look pretty cool. But when you do take away the iconography of Ladybug and Cat Noir, it very much is this stale superhero family flick that it's honestly very forgettable, and there's not much in there that really does work out. Like the plot lines are pretty bland. The characters, like even the voice acting and the humor, I feel like they try way too hard. It's not really that they're not really that appealing, and it's just not so great. And even the songs are like super forgettable. Like this is also supposed to be a musical.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the songs are just, they're not that great. They feel like they're just trying to be like modern pop hits, and nah. I don't know. Like I felt like there was a lot more love and energy on Wish, more so than there is on the songs of Ladybug and Cat Noir. So yeah.
That's too bad. Well, let's talk about Elemental. So Elemental, for me, I think I might have liked Elemental if I hadn't seen Inside Out and Zootopia and a million other movies that are like in Monsters Inc., that are like inside the world of scares, or inside the world of luck, or inside the world of emojis. Like we've gotten that so much that I said in my review that I feel like Pixar is making concepts more than they're making stories right now. And this is a concept. You have fire and water person, and can they fall in love? And I thought that why were they spending so much time like getting permits and like racing around the city? Why did her like feelings on her dad so radically changed by the course of the movie? Like at the beginning, she seemed to be happy to be running the store. She seemed to have no problem with that. And by the end, it's like, how dare you make me run your, you've made me do this. And I was like, what happened? And why was he interested in her at all? Like she's getting upset and flying off the handle at all these things. And I don't know. I just thought like, what is happening here? That I did not think the story was good. Like the animation is very impressive. But it felt extremely derivative to me. And I'm frustrated with Pixar right now. And what they're doing. And I don't know. I just didn't like the story.
Honestly, okay, this is going to sound weird, but for me, I feel like Elemental is on par with Wish, where, yeah, it's not the best from the studio, and there are a few flaws, especially with the story, and no offense, Rachel, but I do feel like the narrative is a little bit comparable to something like a Hallmark movie, where it is kind of that typical love story that you would find, like those kinds of romances. But again,
not fun. It wasn't fun like a Hallmark movie. It wasn't like, I don't know.
So, okay, I don't know. Maybe Hallmark is not necessarily a great example, especially to use it with you.
Like it wasn't like a cute little bubbly rom-com, in my opinion. Like it was trying to be heavier than that. It was trying to be like, I don't know. Like it was trying to be like Romeo and Juliet.
Well, I mean, there is something about it that I will say that personally I did like it. Like number one, the animation is absolutely stellar. Like this is one where technically you are right, where like it is a lot more concepts, where like technically it's one where like the animation is taking priority to show off like a lot of things, and they did that very well. Like this is where the effect, like the visual effects, really take center stage, and they actually make some great effects with it, even especially like with the characters. And I will say I actually did get a little bit into the romance, especially with the relationship between Ember and Wade. That for me, I find that okay, it did work. It is pretty charming, and they are likable characters where you want to see them have like some kind of happy ending. And one controversial thing that a lot of people have talked about, like they got upset that Disney didn't promote this as much, is regarding this subtle message in regards to immigration. Because keep in mind that the whole thing about this is actually this, I guess you could say, a quasi-biography of director Peter Sohn, that he based it on his personal life growing up in New York City. And from there, you could tell that this is something like Wish. I feel like it has a lot of heart to it to create something a little bit more than an animated feature, like to create something that is special. And honestly, I feel like there is something about it where, yes, it doesn't work as well as some of the other Pixar films, but it does work in its own way. So overall, I do feel like, honestly, I do enjoy, maybe not the best, but I did enjoy this one.
Yeah, most people seem to enjoy it a lot more than I did, so that's good.
Oh yeah, well, I will say though, it is like, I think it is worth mentioning that it is fascinating to see how it rose up to fame. Like,
yeah, no, that was good to see.
Yeah, because like prior to it, when Elemental came out and before it, people were treating Elemental like how some people are treating Wish right now. Like, it was very much hated. People were going after, like, they were attacking the movie, saying that Pixar is in a crisis, that they were hating it and all that stuff, and how, like, they were saying it was a box office bomb because it had one of the worst openings of a Pixar movie. But then over time, it just slowly but surely gradually accumulated money where it became a sleeper hit. And now it's one of the most popular movies that you could find on Netflix, on Disney Plus. Sorry. Yeah. No, not Netflix.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know. Pixar's just, I've been very mixed on their recent output. My favorite of recent output was Luca. Actually, I thought that had the best story of their recent films, but yeah, I don't know, I'm just not loving this phase for me.
So just out of curiosity, are you ready to go and watch it on the big screen?
Definitely, yeah. And even though I did not love Turning Red, I'm still going to see it on the big screen, and I'll see Soul, even though I'm bitter that it won over Wolfwalkers, but but it, you can't, even if they're flawed, I still want to see them on the big screen.
Yeah, no, I'm personally really excited. I really like those movies. I find them to be among the better outputs of Pixar's recent films. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to catch them, because I know with these kinds of re-releases, Disney only focuses like on a few places in the US, and like they don't really do much for Canada.
Yeah.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
All right, next, Paw Patrol, the movie, the Mighty movie. This was our sequel, and I thought it was fine. It was cute for kids. I'm just kind of, I felt like they are already superheroes. Like, they're already powerful dogs. I don't understand the need to make them like superheroes. That was not that fun to me. But it was cute for little kids.
Yeah, I'm on the same. Yep, now I'm back on the same page as you. Now we diverged, and now we are back. And I will say with Paw Patrol, I actually did like the first movie. That was actually quite a surprise that it was a lot more enjoyable than I thought. And I mean, keep in mind, I'm like a 31-year-old childless millennial. Yeah. But with this one, it turned out to be exactly what you would expect from a Paw Patrol movie. Like, it's exactly the kind of like kid-friendly narrative that they would go and put out. And there are some things that I do find to be a lot weaker, like especially Ryder not being that likable. Like, he's just the typical leader, and it's like, ugh. Like, even the way he's running things is not really that admirable. But yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, I get like the mindset of just why would they go and do this, like to put the Paw Patrol into the superhero genre when they technically kind of are like ordinary superheroes and stuff like that. But then again, they've already made it clear in the movie itself that it really is all for merchandising. Like, there was even one joke, admittedly, that I do like, where they're like now they got, it's like, and now with them being Mighty Pups, we got some merch. And by the way, new parents, we would like to say, we're sorry. Like, there is a part where they are kind of self-aware, and that is actually pretty cute. So, honestly, it's.
And I've interviewed Cal Brunker, the director. He's delightful, and I know they really are trying to make entertaining movies for kids, and I think they succeeded. But it was just a little bit less hard, a little bit less special than I think the first one.
Yeah,
so,
I think
what are you gonna do? But it was
honestly,
cute enough.
Yeah, I think the thing with the first movie, it set the bar a lot higher than anyone could ever expect. But this one is like, okay, well, I mean, I was like, well, okay, well, it is what it is.
Well, let's talk about Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. I think this movie is fine. I think it's perfectly entertaining. I enjoyed watching it, but it's hard, when you have something that's so beloved as the original and you're waiting all this time and you try to not have too high of an expectation. It was fine. I was entertained by it, but it was just, I don't know. I mean, and I think I was expecting it to be better because I think Farmageddon was a really good sequel to Shaun the Sheep. And it was like quite different than the first movie. The first movie is kind of an homage to silent movies, to almost Chaplin-esque, I would say, the first Shaun the Sheep. And then the second one is a little bit sci-fi, a little bit. So it was like different. Whereas this, it was just like rinse and repeat. It was fine. I liked it fine. I just was expecting, it's Aardman. I'm expecting it, and it's the Chicken Run sequel. I was expecting it to be better. But it's fine.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I do feel like it's a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, I love the first Chicken Run. I think it's one of my favorite stop motion animated films, and one of the best things Aardman has honestly done. And I will say, like, I will give it that in here, the animation is fantastic, and some of the action scenes are actually pretty fun. So in that regard, like, at least, like, it's safe to say that they definitely did deliver in terms of like the visual aesthetics. Like, animation, fantastic. The rest, however, and again, this might sound a bit harsh, I feel like what Aardman did with the story and like with how they updated the characters, it's very comparable to what Disney did with their direct-to-video movies back in like the late 1990s and the early 2000s. And they even have this plot line that is very similar to what they would do with those. Like the whole story of like, oh, now the original protagonists, now they became parents, and now like the focus is on this brand new character who's like the daughter of Ginger and Rocky. And like, she wants to go in the outside world, but the parents are like, no, I have trauma from the first movie, so I want you to be safe and stuff. And like, you go through all that, honestly. So I just feel like the narrative is just massively weak. And especially one thing I was very disappointed is in regards to Mrs. Tweedy. Like, I was thinking, okay, well, considering that she literally got crushed by this wall or a giant door at the end of the first film, maybe they'll explain how she came back. No, they went into the Rise of Skywalker route, and they just said like somehow Mrs. Tweedy returned. So like they don't really explain much of it, and I just felt like it was just such an unnecessary sequel. And also, I want to add that it's also disappointing to see how Aardman handled some of the things, especially when it comes to the casting. Yeah. Like, I do get, like, okay, I do get, like, why some of them had to change. So, like, okay, I understand, like, replacing Mel Gibson with Zachary Levi, despite the fact that now you just turned Rocky into Flynn Rider. But honestly, the one that is very controversial that they honestly really messed up is with Julie Sawalha not coming back as Ginger. That I find to be like,
and she did a test reel to show that her voice sounds the same. So it's bogus. It's bogus, and it's so weird because it's not like Thandie Newton is like a big name that's going to bring in crowds. Like, there's no reason.
No,
Like,
I mean, like, she did fine. Like,
yeah, she did fine. But like, I'm just saying, if the point is to cast a star, it's not like, I don't know, like, it's not like you have The Rock or, you know, like somebody that's like a big movie star. You know, it so makes no sense. It was stupid.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, they use the excuse of like, oh well, she sounds too old. But then again, you could argue that technically with her older like, even if her voice sounds older, like, it would still work within the narrative because like several years has passed. Now she became a mother of this girl who now seems to be like a teenager. So I mean, it would have worked where her voice would, you know, like her older voice would actually reflect on the passage of time that actually happened within the movie. And not to mention that, okay, if you're not going to bring her back, why did you bring some of the others back? Like, why did you bring back the voice of Mrs. Tweedy or Babs or Mac or Bunty? Like, why
stupid.
do they come back?
It makes no
but
sense.
Not her?
It makes no sense.
It's ridiculous.
Makes no sense. All right, let's go through some of these other ones real quick. So then we have The Amazing Maurice. I saw this at Sundance, so it's been almost a year. But I remember thinking it was okay. It was all right. I don't remember much else about it. Did you see that one?
No, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, that was at Sundance. It's a story about a cat. It's just average. And then let's talk about Leo. So this was on Netflix. This one I was very on the fence about. I really like the message of the movie and the idea that actually sitting down and listening to kids and what that does for these kids' self-confidence, that Leo actually cares what they have to say and he listens. I really liked that. I thought that was really good. And the movie does have a nice heart. There's some funny moments. But I thought it used music very poorly. I mean, like there were some moments when it was an outright musical, and then it would drop that, and then it would be back. And so that was bad. And I thought the whole thing with the substitute teacher was just weird. And like, are we supposed to feel sorry for this? But then she's like, she's really mean to the kids and just kind of a beast. And I don't know. I don't know what they were doing there. There were some story problems, but I do appreciate the overall heart and the message. So
I do get it because, like, on one hand, it does look like a bland animated kids flick that doesn't necessarily do much. Even the animation, I feel like, I don't know what's been going on with Animal Logic. Like, they used to do like some of the most excuse me. I find that they used to do some of the most revolutionary visuals, like with the Matrix and the Lego Movie. But nowadays, there's something about the rendering or something about their animation that just feels subpar compared to like some of the others. Like even the recent outputs, like DC Leagues of Super Pets and Leo. I don't know. There's just something about them that doesn't look as great as some of the other animated features this year. And even with with the concepts of Leo, it doesn't seem that much. It's just like this. Like again, it's a very bland kids flick with talking animals and like kids in a school. And from there, like there's also the liars revealed narrative going on.
Yeah.
But I will say that I do understand the love for this movie. I do understand why people really did enjoy this. It has a lot of great heart. Again, I agree with you. It has a wonderful message. And it's not just for students, but for people in general to have find their own Leo, to have someone to talk to about like some of their personal insecurities. I find that to actually be a wonderful message. And also the comedy is fantastic. I find the comedy to be great, especially with the dynamic with Adam
Except
Sandler
for the substitute. The comedy, that just did not, I don't understand what they were doing that character. It was very weird.
No, the
I'm
substitute,
she was like kind of a borderline abusive to these kids and what she's doing. She was like the Trunchbull and Matilda, but yet we're supposed to be rooting for her. That was weird, but
yeah, they didn't handle her well. That and also, I will agree with you on the songs. This shouldn't have been a it feels like it doesn't know if it wants to be a musical or not. And not to mention, like I don't know if you caught on to this. There's one kid who was auto-tuned. Like there was one kid, obviously he can't sing, so they had to put in some auto-tune. And it's I could even point out specifically who. It's the one whose parents are like the clean freak, the one who had the drone.
Oh yeah.
Like you can hear there was a bit of auto-tune in that one.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, next up I have Merry Little Batman, and I thought this, of course, I cover all the Christmas movies, so it was sort of fun to cover something different. I liked it. I thought it was funny. It's way too long. This thing should be 45 minutes, like the old great animated Christmas specials, you know, like your Rankin Bass and your stuff like that. That were just like 45 minutes in, out, you're on with your life. And that's what this should have been. So it's way too long, but I did like the animation, and I did think it was genuinely funny and quite sweet. So that's where I have that.
Personally, I haven't actually seen it, but I have heard a lot of positive things. Like maybe I'll consider it one time, or maybe one Christmas. I don't know. Maybe considering like the amount of time we have for the holidays left, I don't know if it's like too late.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about The Boy and the Heron. So The Boy and the Heron, obviously Miyazaki legend, anime master, and it was so exciting to have him back. Joe Hisashi, incredible composer, incredible music. I have to be honest with this one. I saw it at a midnight screening. I was really tired, and I really need to see it a second time when I'm not as tired. I liked it. It was beautiful. But the story was just like, what is happening? And I'm not that part of it's my own weakness, because I'm not that much of a bird person, and there were a lot of weird birds. A lot. Maybe I was expecting to like love it, and I didn't love it, but I did admire it, and I do like it. It's good. But yeah, it was just kind of messy, I thought, but it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I will say I actually really did like this one. I really
do need to see it again.
Yeah, it is worth, especially the English dub, because I just gotta say, if I would have to go and name the best voice acting performance of the year, it has to be Robert Pattinson as the Grey Heron. This was his first time doing voice acting, and it is unbelievable. He put out such a wonderful performance as the Grey Heron.
Yeah.
But also another one I gotta say was a great performance was Florence Pugh, doing one character. I somehow I forgot her name, but she did the old and the young version of her, and like it was fantastic as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, this was actually very close to being the best animated feature of the year. Like, I love the animation is very beautiful. The score by Joe Hisaishi, fantastic. And the narrative of like this beautiful world building and like this unpredictable journey, fantastic. My one problem with it, however, is that they should have actually focused more on the character building, and should have actually helped build that up, especially with the main character Mahito. Because I feel like, honestly, that guy, he's just uninteresting. Like, okay, yeah, it's sad that he lost his mother during World War II because of a fire and stuff like that, but that's it. You know, that's all there is to him. And he's there, and like that plays a significant factor as to why is it that the first act of the entire movie is just incredibly slow. It's not until like the Heron actually does talk to Mahito when things actually do start to get interesting, and when the movie actually does start. If they did, like, if there was more character development on this movie, this would have been like easily one of the best movies of the year and one of the best Hayao Miyazaki movies. But other than that, since it doesn't have it, it's still a fantastic film, still one of the best animated movies of the year, but not as good as some of them.
If this was just no name anime director, though, do you think you'd feel that you feel the same about it? Like, I do feel like that is influencing people a little bit, because it's Hayao Miyazaki's comeback, and I don't know at all. Do you feel like at all?
That is a good question, honestly. I think it would be I don't think it would have the same popularity as it does now. It wouldn't get like all the accolades that we are seeing, because so far it's surprisingly The Boy and the Heron, the one that's been getting the most awards for like best animated feature and stuff like that. But honestly, I feel like people would like it, but maybe not as much.
Yeah. It's a good film. You're talking when you're dealing with somebody like Miyazaki, you're holding him to an extremely high standard. And he has made some of the masterpieces of film, not even just animated films. Well, let's talk real quick about Once Upon a Studio. I thought this was really sweet. I enjoyed it. Yes, it's just like a promo reel for the studio, but I think that's appropriate. It's a 100-year anniversary. Like, it did the job it needed to do, and it was sweet and charming. And obviously that scene with Mickey and Walt was great. And I mean, I don't know what else you could ask for this kind of a project. What else you could want?
Yeah, even I'll admit, as someone who is a fan of Wish, even I'll admit Once Upon a Studio is the better 100th celebration for Disney. It really is that, what really does work is that it knows what it is. It's a love letter and a celebration to the 100 years of Disney animation. And what they've done for it is just absolutely heartfelt and just flat out beautiful. It really does emphasize what is it that we love about Disney, and not to mention the animation is just it's very admirable and very revolutionary. Like, not just because oh look, they brought back hand-drawn animation, and we know that animation fans are absolutely desperate for Disney and somehow Disney alone to bring back animation, hand-drawn animation. But especially the way they combine all the different mediums together, like the live action of just filming all around the studio, the hand-drawn animation, and with the CG as well, and especially with the huge amount of characters, like over 500 characters all coming together. It's such a beautiful short. I definitely love it.
So you saw The Magician's Elephant. What'd you think?
Oh boy. Well, honestly, I gotta disagree with you with what you say about Wish being so forgettable and stuff like that. No. The Magician's Elephant wins the title of the most forgettable animated film of the year. At least you remember to go and watch Wish twice even. Magician's Elephant, on the other hand, oh boy, good luck trying to remember a single freaking thing. The only thing that I do remember was that there was one scene where a magician comes out of nowhere and crushes an old lady. That's pretty much it. The rest is all downhill. Now, I will give it, I do see what they were trying to do with it, where it's trying to be this inspiring fairy tale like story that's supposed to have like this beautiful heartfelt message about how the impossible can be possible and stuff like that. But it just doesn't really work. The way that Netflix handled it, it just felt like this very cynical modern animated feature. Like, even watching it now, it actually feels pretty dated. The comedy just doesn't work, and even the animation is a little bit weird, especially with the designs being like kind of uncanny, where they want to be artistic but they're also trying to be like realistic at the same time, giving them real details, like with puffy lips and like detailed eyes. It's just it doesn't work. And again, it's animation from Animal Logic, and it's another example of how like it doesn't look as great as some of their previous outputs. There's just something that feels a little bit off with it.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
By the way, I just want to go and quickly add one more that you did forget to put in onto the list, and that is Under the Boardwalk.
Oh yeah.
I just want to have a quick. Yeah, I just want to have a quick moment to talk about that one. So this is the movie that Paramount, they desperately try to hide. They want to make sure that nobody sees it, nobody talks about it.
And I heard
that
it was
is
like decent. I heard it was okay.
It actually is.
Yeah.
And I mean, the big reason is actually because of Russell Brand. And considering all the major controversy based on him, instead of recasting it, they decided to go and completely bury the entire feature. But it did actually turn out to be okay. I mean, like, yeah, it's the typical family-friendly Romeo and Juliet story. And the songs themselves, again, they're not really that great. But I will give it to the film that it actually is a lot of fun. Like the animation, I find to be very well made from Paramount Animation. And also the characters are charming themselves. And not to mention, it also includes a pretty good message as well of of speaking against prejudice. Because like, you know, there's the battle between like the sea crabs and the land crabs. And like, you know, talking about how, you know, like how stuff like discrimination can often like get people very divided, and it's not, like it can like destroy things more so than it can actually help things out. So honestly, I feel like it is like debatably one of the most underrated movies of the year. Not great, but it is something that is worth a watch, and that I do find to actually be pretty charming.
I need to catch up on that. I need to.
It worked better. Yeah, it worked better than like what you would probably expect.
Well, let's talk about Suzume. I'm a huge Makoto Shinkai fan. I have loved to like all of his films. I'm in the Your Name Hive. That movie really inspired me. And this I really enjoyed it. It's very creative. This relationship between this girl in a chair, and you know, kind of what happens, and the animation is absolutely beautiful, except for that column looked absolutely terrible. I don't know what happened with the animation on that, you know, like column.
Which column?
Well, that like power, like the magic, like,
is it the worm thing you're talking about, or
the what? It's like the pillar of
thing.
Like the magic power light thing. The like
is it the thing that they're trying to stop?
Yeah, they're trying to stop. It
okay, so it is the worm thing. Okay.
Oh, the worm thing. Okay. Yeah, I thought it looked terrible. I was like, what, did they blow all the animation budget? And then they had to just make this thing look really bad. But other than that, it looks great. I liked it. I thought the story wasn't quite there for me. Especially everything with her and her aunt and the road trip, and it's kind of a mess, but an enjoyable mess. I liked it, but
yeah, I actually did see this one, and I actually do find it to be enjoyable.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, like it's a testament to the power of anime, where like the kind of weird romance that they can do, they can find a way to make it emotionally engaging, especially the love with this teenage girl and a sentient chair like that like there is a lot of moments where like it is cute, it is funny, but it's also like very emotionally engaging. Like you actually do feel for them. The world building, the whole concept of like the whole thing with doors and the other dimensions, I think it worked out very strongly. However, I don't find it to be as good as the previous feature, Weathering With You. Like I do like that one a little bit more, but this one, I gotta say, is still like, it's still really good. It's still beautifully animated. It's still highly engaging. It pretty much it'll send you on an emotional roller coaster, and it'll make you laugh, and it'll make you cry. It could be pretty intense. So overall, it's still like a very strong feature as is. Also, I gotta say, and maybe this is another hot take, am I the only one that hate that stupid freaking cat? Like the cat that always brings them into trouble. It's like, I don't care about that freaking ending, about the cat suddenly being like, oh, I want to be your friend. No. I just want to take that freaking cat and just drop kick that stupid thing.
It was very mischievous. I can see that. So my, I guess, unpopular opinion of this animation season was I really, really enjoyed Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. Really? I thought that it did a lot of things that other coming of age stories do wrong. I really liked the relationship between Ruby and her mom. It was not this shrill, shrieky, judgy mom that you sometimes see in these movies, like in Turning Red. And she had a reason to be concerned about her daughter and to be protective. It wasn't irrational. And the way that relationship played out, I thought was really good. And then you have a grandma character as well. I really liked Ruby as a character. I thought she was really sweet. I liked her little romance. I liked her relationship with her friends. Yeah, I mean, there's generic elements of it. The villain was lame, and not that great. But I liked the animation. I thought was good, and I really enjoyed it. And most people, didn't even give it a chance, which is a shame. But I liked it so much. I actually interviewed Kirk D'Amico, the director, had him on. And because I just felt like at the very least, it was a shame that people didn't really get to see it. It was in and out of theaters in 1 week or 2 weeks. And that's always a shame that people don't get a chance to actually make their own opinions about it and see it when it gets buried by the studio. It's too bad, but I liked it.
Yeah, I gotta admit that I feel like the way that it was treated by Universal, it was a true shame. It was almost like they had no idea what to do with this movie. But I gotta say, to be very honest, how you feel about Wish, I feel about Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. It was not a great movie for me. Especially, I feel like the story is just an absolute mess. They're trying way too many things, and they throw it on the wall in the hopes that something might stick, but it just didn't really work out. It just feels like a whole bunch of stale narratives just cobbled up together and just poorly accumulated, poorly set up. I feel like it would have worked much better if they only took a few of those, focus on developing that, because there is something that could work, because I do like the original idea that it has of creating its own lore of krakens and mermaids. Okay, that thing can work, but they're trying so many different things with the coming of age story, the superhero narrative, and then you got the comedy that is honestly a bit more annoying. And even with the animation, there are some parts that actually do work out in the same way, where the animation of Trolls is actually pretty nice. But then there's also other factors where it is just ugly. The designs on the humans, they are terrifying. They look horrible. Especially the love interest that
you didn't like that?
Ruby likes. No, that guy looks scary. It's I think she has a crush on him because he looks more monstrous compared to her. So honestly,
I didn't think it was that bad, but fair enough.
No, but for me, I just feel with Ruby Gillman, it's just I feel like it doesn't really know what to do with itself, and it kind of just passes off as just another bland animated kids flick that honestly it's just poor. It's just poorly handled.
I liked it, but there we go. All right, let's talk about Migration. I really think this is a great example. You get the right team behind something, it's going to make the world of difference. And having Benjamin Renner and Mike White behind, Mike White doing the writing, Benjamin Renner doing the directing. I mean, this thing worked a million times better than it had any right to. I thought that it was genuinely pretty funny. It was a good story. The only thing that I didn't need is you just didn't need this maniacal chef. There was no need for a villain. There was enough going on with the journey, the road trip elements, that kind of thing, that we didn't need it. And it didn't add much to the story. So I would have cut that all out and just had to be about them migrating and, the various obstacles they face along the way. You didn't need this over the top chef, but I mean, for Illumination, this was a big win for me. I thought it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, I actually do like a lot of Illumination's inputs, but this one, I just find this to be no different than a lot of the other things they do. I find Migration to be, sorry?
I just said interesting.
Oh, okay, yeah. I find this to be on par with Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie, where it's exactly what you would expect from an Illumination movie. It's something that honestly, it plays it safe. It knows that it's just kids' entertainment. It doesn't do anything extra from there, and like a lot of what it delivers, like yeah,
I just thought the script was extra. I thought it was funny. I mean, you can tell when you have a good writer behind it. For me.
Yeah, but for me, I just feel like at least in terms of the concepts or just the story itself, like it's very plain. Like, okay, it's ducks migrating. You know, they want to go from point A to point B, and then they meet some colorful characters along the way and try to dodge some obstacles and stuff like that. And the voice acting, it's like again, it's another thing that is very much expected. Like with people like Danny DeVito or Aquafina or Keegan-Michael Key. And Elizabeth Banks, like they deliver performances that you would expect. Now, now this does not mean that I hate this. I do find this to be okay, and there are some enjoyable things about it. The animation, I do find it to be a slight upgrade compared to what Illumination would normally do. Like you could tell that with the Benjamin Renner influence, it does work out to get some good visual comedy. Some of the characters can actually be pretty fun. They can be enjoyable, like Uncle Dan. And also it does have a cute message about family, like, you're like, they're all at their best when working together. But for me, it's not as strong as some of the other animated features, and I just find this to be on par with. It's exactly what you'd expect from Illumination. Like, it's not the best, but I mean, it's harmless. Kids are gonna like it, so I mean, it is what it is.
Well, one I wanted to mention real quick that people are going to get a chance to see in 2024. So have it on your radar. I saw it at Animationist Film Festival. Mars Express. It's going to get a G-Kids release, so it should be out pretty wide next year. This is a gorgeous movie, sci-fi story about, it's like a detective story. It's got kind of a noir feel to it. It's got definitely an homage to Blade Runner and other sci-fi, Ghost in the Shell, things like that. But it was really good. I highly recommend everybody keep an eye out for it. It's really good. Yeah. And they did a whole documentary during the making of it, which you can watch along which is kind of fun too. So
interesting.
Yeah, keep an eye out for it. All right, let's talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Of course, huge hype for this movie, and I think it was excellent. I mean, astonishing. The animation was just unbelievable. I do think that the story was not as tight as the original film. And I do think it gets a little exposition heavy in the middle sections, but when they get to that that campus, with all the Spider-Man,
the big hub, the big Spider-Man hub,
yeah. But I'm nitpicking. It was great. I really enjoyed it. It was an incredible experience. I didn't mind that it was part one because I knew going into it that it was part one, so that didn't really bother me. But yeah, I mean, incredible, an artistic achievement. And how many times can you really say that going into a movie?
That is true. For me, the one thing I might disagree with you a little bit is that I might like this a little bit more than Into the Spider-Verse.
I know a lot of people do, and I can understand that. I just think the story was a little tighter in the original.
Okay, that is fair. That's definitely fair. But with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I feel like it took what made the first Spider-Verse movie like revolutionary and innovative, and like really take that to the next level, where like a lot of the wow factor feels fresh again, and especially with the whole story. And it's interesting to know because not many people talk about this, but technically I think this did manage to break the record as one of, if not the longest Western animated movie, going at 2 hours and 20 minutes. But the length of it does keep you engaged from beginning to end, especially with the whole dynamic with Miles Morales and Gwen, and even looking into the whole message about the whole message in regards to what it means to be a Spider-Man, that I think they did handle it well. And then, I mean, of course, the animation where the people at Sony really went above and beyond, especially
it's unbelievable.
With the hundreds of unique styles, and then just like blending them all together, turning into this Roger Rabbit of Spider-Man movies. It really did work out. And already, I think it's safe to say, like, the next most anticipated animated film is Beyond the Spider-Verse. And sure. I do agree. It's definitely a great cinematic achievement. Even if the animators, unfortunately, they went through quite a lot of abuse with the unfortunate report that came out not long after the movie.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. I really enjoyed this movie. I loved the fact that it was from the perspective of like teenagers. It felt like teenagers, voiced by teenagers. It felt I thought they had, as a voice cast, had like camaraderie and chemistry, and it felt all of that was great. The story was entertaining enough. My only nitpick with this movie was I thought that the design on April was a little bit, she seemed older to me than high school. Like the character design felt like this is like somebody in their 20s or so. It did not feel like a teenager to me in the way they designed her. But that's a nitpick. I really enjoyed
basically the Aurora problem, where back then people complained that like, oh well, she's 16, but like she looks and sounds like she's 20 or she's in her 30s.
Yeah, that's how I felt. But the animation was absolutely amazing. I loved how it looked. It felt like somebody actually sketching, actually drawing. You could even see where like the line would kind of come away down into the screen sometimes. And I thought a lot of people are like, oh, it's just like Spider-Verse. But I felt like it had enough of its own flair, enough of its own style that I loved that. And I just thought it was really entertaining.
Oh, yeah. Now, honestly, there are two words to describe Mutant Mayhem. It is ugly and it is cringe. But I use those words in a positive manner. Like, they actually make ugly and cringe work out very well. The animation, I mean, it has like this weird out there design, but it works in its own right because it feels like it's going back to its roots of being like this underground comic.
Yeah, I agree.
And it does work out nice to capture that comic book feel. So, and not to mention bringing out considering that this is called Mutant Mayhem and the animation looks mutated, thematically, it really does work, especially with seeing all the different actual mutants. It's very nice. I would even say it's almost comparable to something like Paranorman, where there's like there's no order, there's no straight lines, like everything looks absolutely chaotic and it works in its own way. And especially when getting into the action, it really does work out beautifully. And also, in regards to the turtles themselves, I think this is the best version of the turtles in a long time, considering that they are actually teenagers.
Yeah,
like
I like that.
Yeah, and beforehand, they actually felt more like, like the teenage aspect just makes it feel like it's an excuse to make them look a little bit dumber than usual. But in this case, they actually feel like teens. And I know there's a lot of people who would complain that, these kids are cringe. But I mean, that's kind of the point, though. Like teenagers can often be cringe. And I mean, Rachel, you could agree with me when I say, like, even when we were teens, we were cringe.
Right.
And like in here, the chemistry, like you said, it really works, especially when having actual teenagers voicing them. I really did like their dynamic. The only complaint that I do have, the one major criticism, is that unfortunately, I feel like the story plays it way too safe. It's the kind of typical...
that's fair. It is pretty basic.
It's a typical fish out of water story, ironically very similar to something like Luca. And I feel like it's the kind of plot line where it feels like, many other animated films have told this story before. And that I find to be pretty disappointing, considering that it feels like the movie is playing safe. And if there's one thing that TMNT, and especially with this kind of style, like if there's one thing they shouldn't be, it's to be safe. You know, that I feel like they should have been a little bit more bold with the kind of plot that they would go with. But other than that, definitely an awesome movie.
Yeah. Well, next is Ernest and Celestine, A Trip to Gibberitia. I love the first Ernest and Celestine movie, so I was very excited for this. And to me, it totally delivered. This is such a cute movie. It's one of those movies where I watched it and I'm like, I can't imagine anyone disliking. Like, maybe it won't be someone's favorite, but I can't imagine someone like actively disliking it. It is so charming. And I really like the story that they picked, and that they had something to say about racism and prejudice and the way we treat people without it being like, you know, and I honestly felt like it was maybe a perfect film. It was just so entertaining and sweet and funny, and I loved it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but honestly, considering the praise that you give it, I should probably check it out.
Yeah.
I love the first Ernest and Celestine. I find it to be one of the most wholesome animated features you could find. Yeah. So honestly, yeah, if in that case, I'll need to go and keep an eye out for this one.
Yeah. It's so good. All right, then next, the first Slam Dunk. This was so exciting to me. Like, it was so unique. I've never seen a movie like this. I've never seen an anime film like this. And to have like a sports movie, which I love sports movies, and to get so invested in what was happening in the game that you're like, by the end, you're like, oh, see you make a shot, you know, kind of a thing. And it was totally, I think this would be a great gateway anime. If you're having a hard time convincing anybody to watch anime, I think this is one that somebody might be willing to watch, that doesn't have like fantasy elements. It doesn't have, you know, some of those other things that could be a barrier for certain people to get into anime. This is, you know, just a normal story of normal people. The only real knock I have against it is that I do think that the character designs were a little off. Like, they're supposed to be in high school, and these all look like professional athletes. Like, I think it would have been a little bit better if they actually looked like high school students. But as far as like the immersion, I feel like you were on the court with the characters. It was very effective in that way. I think it was very exciting. It was something new and fresh.
Yeah. Now, you actually did show this to me. I actually did manage to watch it yesterday. And honestly, I feel like this is one where I might need to go and rewatch it in order to have a full opinion. I don't know if I would agree with you by calling this a gateway anime, because considering that it is like a full-on sports movie, I think like someone would, it's more of an acquired taste where like someone would really have to love sports movies to get into this. Otherwise, like, if they're not interested in sports, chances are they might not really be into the first.
Well, just in the sense that it's just about like normal teens, and I think that like a sports movie is fairly relatable, whereas like if somebody is struggling, like not everybody's going to be up for a movie about a girl falling in love with a chair, you know, like some of these like fantasy sci-fi that you see in anime. Like, I feel like this is more something people might be able to relate to a little bit more. Like, you know?
Okay, I get it. Like something very down to earth.
Yeah.
So, I get it. And there are some things that admittedly, like, I don't know, like it took a lot of time for me to get into, especially when the characters don't necessarily leave a good first impression. Everybody is like kind of mean. Everybody's like, I don't know, everybody is depressing. Everybody is mean to each other. So like it takes a lot of time to get into. And again,
there's a lot of conflict and drama.
Yeah. And it is something where like you would have to get it, like, if you don't care about sports, you might not necessarily care about the first Slam Dunk, especially if you don't care about basketball at all. But I could see a lot of the great positives though. Yeah. The animation like is really stellar. Like there's a part of me who's wondering, like, is there some of this that's like either rotoscoped or motion capture? Because if not, like, oh my God,
really cool. The animation is very immersive. I mean, you really feel, I'm so mad that I didn't get to see it on the big screen, because that would have been an incredible experience. But it was only in theaters for 1 week here. I don't know if it was a Fathom event or anything, but I was like, oh, I'll see it next week, and it was gone.
Yeah. No, like they did a pretty solid job with the animation, especially with the combination of just 2D and then like when they play basketball, when they play the actual game is 3D. And I will admit, like when I don't know what it is, but like when the game is at the 1 minute mark, when there's like 1 minute left of the whole game, oh my God, does it become so freaking intense? Like suddenly I find myself so invested, like, oh my God. It was like, well, yo, what's going on? Like everybody is giving it their all. Everybody is going crazy. Like injuries happen. Like I will admit, like there's a moment where it really does get intense. But overall, I will say I'm gonna have to give, like, I'll need another watch in order to have like a proper full opinion about it. And I do see a lot of the great positives and why a lot of the critics give it high praise. But like, I don't know, like again, I just need another rewatch to like see if I could really get into it or get myself invested.
I think that's The Boy and the Heron's that way for me. I need to see it another time. I haven't done a review of it yet because some movies are just like that, and that's okay. That's okay. Well,
and funny enough, both of ours are just anime movies.
Right. Yeah. Well, my favorite animated film, and I was so happy that the Utah Film Critics Association that I'm a member of included this in their best animated film nominations, was Robot Dreams. I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was so charming and so sweet. This dog who creates his robot, and it used music so well, and charming sequence done to Earth, Wind, and Fire's September. This whole thing, and throughout the movie it uses music very well. I don't know how they got such a music budget, but I love the animation. I love the story. It was so cute. And it ended up being my favorite. I was surprised as anybody else that it was my favorite anime film of the year, but it was really my jam. Friendship story. I love friendship stories. And so it's one that I guess is in some markets right now in art house, but if you get a chance to see it, definitely check it out. It's a Neon release, so it was in the Neon FYC bundle. So I watched it there, but it's so good.
Honestly, I've never actually heard of Robot Dreams. It's only until recently, like I did hear, I believe it got nominated in the British Critics Association. Like they nominated that one along with some of the other films, like with Spider-Verse, Suzume.
I was so proud of our little Utah Film Critics Association that we picked it because it's one that I hope the word gets out because it's really cute.
Yeah, I don't know how widely available it is, but like I'll consider checking this one out.
So is Spider-Verse your favorite? Is that number one for you?
Honestly, no. It would have to be it's very close, but I would actually go with Nimona. Actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. All right. Very good. Well, let us know if you're listening what your favorites are and what you think of all the different films. And hopefully if we introduced you to one that you hadn't heard of that you want to check out, love to hear that too in the comments. And where can people follow you, your content, everything you do?
Well, first of all, I also want to say, don't forget to write in the comments, who has the hottest takes here, me or Rachel? Because I know there's a lot of varying opinions that we put out, and some that might be unpopular, so that'll be interesting to see. But as for me, well, you could go and find me on YouTube, of course, my main hub, which is Electric Dragon 505. I am also available on Patreon, on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. So you could go and follow me there.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And you all can follow me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast and on iTunes. Leave your ratings and reviews. And check out the Hallmarkies podcast, all the Christmas coverage there. I would really appreciate that. And I have the Patreon and merch store. You can get #Animation Junkie shirts. And I'm an animation girl shirts at the merch store. So check that out. And thanks again, Matt. It's always a delight to talk to you. And
it's an honor.
Merry Christmas. We'll talk to y'all later.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.